To start our cylinder, we are going to make an oval that is about 4 finger widths wide. So I'm going to make my oval first, check it, make sure it's large enough, and then add 2 parallel lines down the edges of my cylinder and connect the 2 edges with a curved line like a smile at the bottom. Then I'm going to add in what is called a horizon line. The horizon line is what is going to separate the wall from the table. Here I have my light source. My light source is a lamp that is coming out of the ceiling here, and it is going to determine where my highlights and shadows fall. Your light source could be a lamp like mine, or you could draw the sun, or you could make another type of lamp if you'd like. I'm going to put a little string on mine so we can turn it on and off. Okay, so the light comes directly onto the cylinder, just where I have drawn those little light lines. We're going to pretend like those are the rays of light. So in those spaces, I know that that area is where I'm going to have my lightest values, the whites, and those are called the highlighted areas. So I know that in that space, I'm not going to need to color. Next, I'm going to add in my cast shadow. This is the shadow that falls onto the table on the opposite side of the light. So if the light is coming down from the top right-hand corner, my shadow is going to come down behind my can to the left. My shadow is also the same shape as my can. So this is called the cast shadow. It's casted onto the table. Okay, now how about those other areas inside of the can? As we move away from the highlight, I'm going to gently, very lightly put in a curved line, and inside of that curved line, that space right there, that's going to be my midtones. And remember, the midtones that are closer to the highlight are those lighter midtones that we had. As it moves away from the highlight, the midtones are going to get a little bit darker. Then we have our shadow, the darkest shadow, and these are going to be those darker values that we had, the dark gray, and then as we get really close to the edge and the bottom, it will be our black. So the highlight are our lightest values, and the shadows are our darkest values that we practiced on our value scale. Those tones in the middle, those values in the middle are called our midtones. You remember making all of those on the value scale. Okay, for the next part, we are going to be shading pretty much like we did on our value scale. We're going to start with the black.
Now it can go in your
So
drawer.
the black is going to go around the bottom edge of our can. So that's my darkest tone. I'm pressing down a little bit harder. Might have to go over it a few times. So there is my black dark value. And then I'm also going to put that value on the edge of the left side of my can and just around the left part of the top, because we have to shade the top too. Next, I'm going to add in some black to my cast shadow. So just like we did when we were doing our value scale, I'm going to add in the darkest areas first. So,
So just
here come
put
my
it in
black
your locker or your
my
drawer.
dark
I keep saying
values
Put it in your
for
drawer.
the
for
shadow.
now.
I have to go over those maybe more than once, and I have to darken them up by layers and pressure. So don't forget that you are layering your colors. All right, next you can see in my cast shadow that as I move away from my can or my cylinder, my values are getting lighter. So I went from my darkest value to the dark gray, to the middle gray, to the light gray. And next I'm gonna erase that outline of my shadow because I don't want it to look too squared off. And I'm gonna blend. Once I'm done blending all of those values together, they should kind of look like they're fading out. So the farther away it gets from the can, it kind of fades lighter. If I need to, I can go back in and make some values darker, or if I need to erase some values, I can. So I do a lot of back and forth, a lot of layers. I'll smudge, I'll see where I'm at, and then I go from there. What do I need to do next? Do I need to make it lighter, darker, smudge some more? So the next couple of minutes, I'm just kind of trying to get those values right in the cast shadow. Okay, let's start adding in some value to the actual cylinder. Just like before, when I was doing my value scale, I'm going to be layering those colors. So the first time I put in a value on the left-hand side, it might not be as dark as it will be when I'm completely done. So this value on the left-hand side of my cylinder is going to curve around my can. Notice that I'm not making my lines too straight. I'm kind of curving them around. The other thing that I'm doing is making sure that my pencil mark isn't too heavy, because really scratchy dark marks are not going to smudge well. And I'm layering those to make them darker. So as I move towards my highlight and I continue to shade in those values, my values are going to get lighter. I'm again using light strokes so that I can build up my colors and not have it super scratchy with my lines. I don't want it to look like scribble lines, because those are not going to blend very well. I do layers that hopefully will blend together in the end. So you can see here how I'm pressing down a little bit harder, still keeping my lines really close together, and adding in more layers to make it dark. So once I think I have a good start, and I have those tones in where I want them, I can blend it or smudge it to smooth it all together to see where I'm at. Remember, after I smudge and blend the colors, I might see that I need it to be a little darker somewhere or a little lighter somewhere. So I'm going to keep going. And as I work my way towards that highlight on the side of my can here, my values are getting lighter and lighter. Notice how I've changed the way I'm holding my pencil. With my lighter values, I hold it towards the top, and I'm going to blend and smudge it so it's nice and smooth. Like I said before, it's a lot of back and forth. So if I need to make it darker, I can. If I need to erase out, I can. But basically what we just did on the side of the can is a value scale from darker to lighter. Just like we did in our value scale on our paper when we practiced.
I thought it was Derek's birthday.
I can't forget the top of my can though, so we're going to go up into the top of that can in just a minute. Take a couple of minutes and make sure that all of your values are correct. Do you have darker shade tones? Do you have those mid-tones? And do you have your highlighted area still white? Okay, moving along to the top of the can, I'm going to begin by adding a little shadow around the top part, the top edge. It gets a little bit lighter as I move towards the highlight. Now I'm adding some value onto the top part of the can, the flat part of the can, not the lip of the can. And you can see here it's just like a value scale. I'm going to start with my darker midtones on the left side. And then as I move closer to the highlight, those values are going to get darker. So I'm going to keep adding layers until I have a darker value on the left side that smoothly transitions to a lighter value towards the highlight. So when you're all done with that and you've colored the top, you're just going to go back and fine tune all of those values, shadows, smudging, blending, whatever you might need to do to make it look more three-dimensional. Our final step for the highlight is to erase that heavy outline that's around your can. If you have a heavy outline around your can, it's going to kind of flatten it. So you'll see that I erased it out to make it a little lighter. We have one more highlight to add in, and that is the reflected light along the bottom of your shape. So remember, that's the light that bounces back up onto your cylinder from the table. So I'm going to erase out just a real thin line along that bottom curved edge of my cylinder.